Hi everybody, it's Lydia here. So today I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free review of The Rosie Effect by Graeme Simsion. This is the prequel to the Rosie project, so if you haven't read that, then there probably are going to be a couple of minor spoilers for it in this video, so just be aware of that. So much more so than in the Rosie project, this book is largely more focused around Don and how his actions affect his own life, more than it affects those around him. And I think for that reason I actually enjoyed it a lot more. It felt more real and more relatable in a way. I felt much more emotionally connected to Don as a character. In the first book I kind of felt at times like we were judging him from afar or laughing at him from afar, and at times that kind of made me a little bit uncomfortable, and I didn't really enjoy that aspect of the first book. With this book the tone is very much different. It's much less light-hearted than the first book. I felt like the first book at times kind of was very kind of romantic comedy kind of style book, and not that that's a bad thing, but I did feel it made it difficult to connect to Don. With this book it's much more emotional, and there's less of that light-heartedness to it, less comic relief. There is still some aspects of it, and it does kind of keep it light when it stops it from getting too deep, but I did feel that that meant that I could connect to Dawn better because it was less of a jokey book. In fact, I think in general this book is a better book than the first book. You can tell that Graeme Simsion has really developed his style and his writing style, and I felt like he had much more of an understanding of the characters in the book than he did in the first one. Not saying that he didn't in that one, but at times I felt like it was quite detached. With this one it was much more involved, which for me was much better and made for a much better read. In fact, in a way the tone was so different between the two books that I kind of felt like this book could actually stand alone. It doesn't have to be part of a series, you don't have to have read the Rosie project first, because actually a lot of kind of what happens in the Rosie project is summed up in this book, and it just felt really different to that, and I felt like it would work perfectly fine as a standalone book. It doesn't have to be part of a series. However, I do think if you do class this as a series, there is a bit of an issue with character development. One thing I found, particularly with Rosie's character and with Jean's character, was that some of the actions that they get up to in this book and some of the things that they say, it didn't really feel believable, because I felt like the character that they were in the first book definitely wouldn't have done that. And obviously there has to be some character development, and there is, and they do change in this book, but they almost changed too much, and I found like a lot of the things that they did was just too out of character for them, and it almost felt at times like it was very much they were being used as plot devices, and I felt like that Simsion could have added in a new character to help with that plot device instead of changing an already established character and making it kind of unbelievable that that character would have done that or said that. So I gave the Rosie project 2.5 stars, and you can read my review of that on Goodreads, I'll link that below. This book I would probably give 3 to 3.5. I do think it is a much better written book. I enjoyed it more, it's got a much better structure, and I read it a lot quicker than I read the Rosie project, so that's a sure sign that I thought it was better and I enjoyed it more. That said, there are still rooms for improvement. The ending I think is still not fantastic, and the character development, there's an issue there, but I do think, as I said earlier, this would actually work really well as a standalone book. I don't think you need to have read the Rosie project to have read this book. There are obvious little things in there that refer to the first book, but it's not like major, and in general I think I would have enjoyed it more if I hadn't have read the Rosie project, because I wasn't a massive fan of that book, and I felt maybe that kind of tainted my opinion of this book slightly, but I did enjoy this book much better, so considering it as a standalone I would give it 3.5 stars. As part of a series I would give it 3, which maybe is unfair, but what can you do? So that's it from me today. The Rosie Effect is out on the 25th of September, check that out, and I will see you soon, so bye!